should people read comics? Is it because they are fascinating, or is it because they can actually help us? According to an article by Richard Allen on Comic Books Are Good for Children's Learning, published on November 6, 2009, reading comics is actually a simplified version of reading most books. Most books nowadays have difficult words that kids can't understand. When I read comics, I find them very cool and interesting, but I actually learn from them. Hi, my name is Yildy, and today I'd like to talk to you about 3 things. The first is why people need to read comics. The second is how you can get your comic book. And lastly, how comics can be a great factor in your life. I'll start with the first one. People need to read comics because they are educational. There are a lot of people like me who don't like to read because they find it boring. But not reading can cause you to fail or drop out of school. And reading is the most important part in learning. According to an article by Lee Stanberry on Top 10 Reasons Why Everyone Should Read Comics, published on 2012, comics are educational. Reading issues of Captain America can teach you the history of World War II. In the DC comics, Batman over here has scientific knowledge, athletic skills, and detective skills. He's knowledgeable in biology, chemistry, and he even took classes on them. He has degrees in criminal science, forensics, computer science, engineering, and more. Sometimes when we're in school, we get bored very easily and we don't like to pay attention, but that's really bad. But what if you can learn and gain knowledge in a fun, entertaining way? This is why reading comics is important. Based on the Philanthropy New Digest Foundation's article on most dropouts leave school due to boredom, lack of encouragement, published on March 3, 2006, approximately 1 million students drop out every year because they're bored. I don't know about you guys, but dropping out is not a good thing. That's why you guys should get a comic book, and I'm going to tell you how right now. The first thing you need to do is find what interests you. Me personally, I like DC comics because I'm into criminal and detective stuff, but that's what DC stands for, Detective Comics. But you're going to do your research first. This is what Angie Cordick says in her article, Comic Book Art Collecting, The Beginner's Guide and Building Your Own Comics Collection. You can go on Wikipedia to search for any superhero you'd like. I know that Wikipedia is not accurate for most people, but when it comes down to comic related things, it actually is. Like, they go into what they really are, what they do, what they're about, and etc. For example, if you've seen the movie Batman or Captain America, and you're interested in learning more about them, then you should go to Wikipedia. And once you've done that, you're ready to buy your comic. There's this thing called trade paperback, which means every issue published in book form. For example, since I like Batman, I would get me a whole bunch of issues of Batman in a book form, which is good. You can get these on Amazon, eBay, or even visiting a comic book store. But the thing is, you guys should really bargain with the prices because sometimes in certain sites, they're used and then the price is deducted, so that's really good. But if you're going to a comic book store for the first time, you guys should really check out a smaller comic book store because once you go into like a big one, they're pretty confusing and you don't really know what to do and etc. And when you read your comic, you'll become so fascinated that you'll just want to buy more. But reading comics can be a great factor in your life. Dan Hurley, for example, he was teased and called dumb and a slow learner, but his best friend gave him a comic of Spider-Man, and he started to read it, and he said that it changed his life completely. He started to get straight A's. He now has a really high IQ. And you know what he's doing now? He's actually a science writer and a journalist for the New York Times and the Washington Post. Also, for females out there or women out there, Wonder Woman, she is known for being very independent, and so is Lois Lane, and etc. Every other female figure that's in the comics. They go more in depth of how they're more portrayed as being independent and being themselves and not needing a man to, help them out. They can handle themselves, and etc. So if you guys are interested in that, you should look into that as well. I know you guys may think that reading comics is childish, a waste of time, but it's really not. If you don't read comics, you might end up like those millions of kids who have dropped out of school already. Those kids probably don't even have a degree or job or whatever. I know that most of you have seen movies like The Hulk, Captain America, and many more. But these movies come from comic books, so why not read the comic book and read more thoroughly into them? As you can see, reading comics can be the best decision of your life. Today, I've told you about the need for getting comic books, how to get a comic book, and how comics can be a great factor in your life. And who knows, maybe you might end up like Dan Hurley, very smart and successful. So thank you.